Do you remember that feeling? When a Vegas buffet was without a doubt the best deal in the entire country? When you can stroll into any casino, slap down a couple of bills, and walk out feeling like you just dined with royalty. A time when a family could actually afford to gather around a table, stack their plates to the ceiling, and just enjoy a meal without that nagging worry about the bank account. You see, those weren't just dinners. They were so much more. They were traditions. They were rituals. And for millions of us, they were the very heart of what made Las Vegas feel warm, welcoming, and just alive. But fast forward to today, and that beautiful symbol of abundance has become another victim, another casualty of cold, hard corporate greed. And let me tell you, the buffet didn't just die of natural causes. No, it was a slow, calculated execution. It was bled out. One price hike, one corner cut, one quote-unquote temporary closure at a time. This is the story of how Las Vegas took something we all loved and twisted it into a luxury item, something only the wealthy can even look at. Part 1. The humble beginnings. Long before the dazzling neon and the billion-dollar mega resorts, Vegas was just a dusty little stop in the desert with some very big dreams. Gambling was the law of the land. Entertainment was taking off, but the casinos had one massive headache. Their late-night players were getting hungry. The shows would wrap up, the kitchens would close down, and suddenly, their gamblers were wandering out the doors looking for a bite to eat. That's when some old-school casino boss had a stroke of genius. A beautifully simple idea. What if we feed them, and feed them cheap? They'll stick around longer. See, the first buffets weren't designed to be fancy. They had one job and one job only: keep the gamblers at the tables. We're talking a few cold cuts, a couple of chafing dishes with something hot, and a sign that basically screamed, "Eat your fill, just don't you dare stop gambling." And oh boy, did it work. It worked better than any of them could have ever imagined. The casinos caught on fast. They realized the buffet wasn't just about the food. It was a promise. It was a handshake deal with every person who walked through their doors. A promise that even the little guy, the bus driver, the electrician, the school teacher, deserved a taste of the high life, even if it was just for one night. Part 2. The Golden Age. Then came the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and the Vegas buffet just exploded. What started as a late-night snack for gamblers transformed into these massive, glorious spreads. And the prices? They were ridiculously cheap. You'd see lines snaking around the casino floor, and management didn't care one bit if they lost money on the food, because they knew you'd drop 20 times that amount on the slots right after. The buffet became the casino's way of saying, "Hey, come on in, we've got you." And the amazing part? People actually believed it. The real magic of those old buffets wasn't necessarily the 5-star quality. It was the feeling. It was dad piling his plate high with roast beef, mom going back for another round of shrimp cocktail. A buffet was never just a place to eat. It was a place where families made memories. It's where vacationers became friends, where locals came to celebrate everything: birthdays, holidays, even just a simple Sunday dinner. It was community, served up on a warm plate. Part 3. The Super Buffet Revolution. So by the early 1990s, something absolutely wild started to happen. The casinos had a revelation. What if the buffet could be more than just a cheap loss leader? What if it could be a spectacle? And just like that, the arms race began. All over town, casinos started launching these enormous, over-the-top super buffets, each one designed to be bigger and better than the last. All of a sudden, a buffet wasn't just a meal anymore. It was an experience. We're talking hundreds of different dishes, live action stations from every corner of the globe, massive carving tables, towering mountains of seafood, custom order grills, and pastry displays that looked like art. Casinos poured millions into making these buffets a destination, and it worked. People were flying in from all over the country just to eat at them. The buffet had become the ultimate icon of Las Vegas excess. But here's the key. It was still at a price point the average family could actually swing. Even as the price crept up to $20 and then $30, nobody really complained because the value was just insane. And that's when we entered the luxury era. Now properties weren't just competing on how much food they had, but on the quality. Things like prime rib carved right in front of you, omelets made exactly how you like them, fresh sushi counters, delicate French pastries, incredible ice sculptures, and chefs cooking your meal right before your eyes. The buffet transformed from a simple loss leader into a casino's ultimate bragging right. This right here was the absolute peak. This was the mountaintop for the Vegas buffet, and nobody knew it then, but it was all downhill from here. Part 4. When corporate Vegas smelled blood. As the casinos morphed into these faceless billion-dollar corporations, the entire philosophy started to rot from the inside. The question in the boardroom was no longer, how can we take care of our guests? It became, how much can we squeeze out of every single one of them? Suits and high-rise offices started questioning that old-school logic. Why on earth are we giving away cheap food when we could be charging a premium? And so, slowly but surely, everything began to shift. The prices started to creep up. The lines got longer, but the menus got shorter. The beloved local buffets, they were either shrunk down to nothing or just shut down for good. And then 2020 happened. And in the blink of an eye, everything changed. The global shutdown handed the casinos the perfect excuse on a silver platter. An excuse to do something they had been itching to do for years. To finally kill the buffet. What they sold to the public as a temporary closure became a death sentence for dozens of our most beloved spots. The official reason? Health protocols, of course. They blame it on staffing shortages, on food waste. But the real truth? It was much simpler. Buffets just weren't making the right kind of money. But you know what does? Food halls, high-end restaurants, and yes, even those $20 sandwiches. You see, a buffet was an investment in loyalty, a concept that corporate Vegas seems to have completely forgotten. Before 2020, there were over 70 buffets lighting up Las Vegas. Today, you can barely count a dozen survivors. The numbers tell a brutal story, and so does the heartbreak. Locals lost their go-to spots for celebrations. Visitors lost one of the last truly affordable meals on the Strip. And families? They lost that one rare place where everyone could eat their fill together without someone having a panic attack over the final bill. And what took their place? Trendy food halls, boutique pop-ups, and artisanal everything. Let's call them what they are. Glorified food courts charging strip-level prices. Corporate Vegas made a bet that you'd pay whatever they asked, and the sad part is, a lot of people did. Which brings us to part 5, the price explosion. As one buffet after another went dark, something quiet and frankly dangerous started to unfold. The few that remained began to jack up their prices. And I'm not talking slowly. This wasn't gradual. It happened almost overnight. The very same buffets that used to proudly advertise a $7.99 all-you-can-eat deal were suddenly demanding $49.99, then $59.99, and I've even seen $79.99 for a single dinner. At first, you heard the justifications, right? People would say, well, everything's more expensive now, or hey, it's Vegas, you're paying for the whole experience, or it's still a better deal than ordering a bunch of separate dishes. But the price hikes just kept coming. They jumped once, then again, and then again. Before you knew it, a regular dinner buffet was costing you as much as a nice steakhouse. And if you were thinking of bringing the family, you could just forget about it. A family of 4 could easily burn through $300 to $500 at some of these places. And that's before you even think about drinks, tax, or a tip. And this all points to a really uncomfortable truth. Buffets used to be the great equalizer in Vegas. Now they're just another dividing line, separating the people who can afford to eat well from those who simply can't. And what's worse, paying that higher price didn't mean you were getting higher quality. So many of the remaining buffets started cutting corners, axing the seafood nights, getting rid of the carving stations, no more fresh omelets, or pulling back on the premium desserts, all while still raising their prices. The casinos had a revelation. People weren't paying for the food anymore. They realized people were paying for the idea of the Vegas experience. Let me translate that for you. You're being charged a premium for your own nostalgia. It was no longer about giving guests a fantastic meal. It was about squeezing every last cent out of their pockets. That old golden rule of Vegas, give them incredible value and they'll always come back, was officially dead. A new, colder logic took its place. Charge whatever the market will bear, and if anyone complains, who really cares? There's always a million new tourists on the next plane to replace them. And that single mindset changed absolutely everything. Locals who used to be weekly regulars haven't stepped foot in one for years. And visitors who cherished buffets for being a great deal now see them as an unaffordable luxury. But the worst part of all? The casinos look at the few ridiculously expensive buffets that are still open and think, see, people are still paying these prices, it must be working. It's a vicious, self-fulfilling prophecy. Prices go up so fewer people can afford to go, which causes more buffets to close. The ones left standing just raise their prices even higher. Buffets didn't just become more expensive, they were systematically pushed out of reach for the very people who built them and loved them the most. Which brings us to part 6, what we truly lost. Because when the buffets died, Las Vegas didn't just lose a place to eat. It lost a sacred ritual. The buffet was woven into the very soul of this city's culture. They were the official start of a family vacation. They were where locals celebrated every birthday. It's where friends would fuel up before a big show, or where couples would recover after a long night. It was a place where 3 generations could all share the same table. Buffets offered something that no food hall could ever sell you: togetherness. It was a simple promise. Everyone could find something they loved. Everyone could sit down together. Everyone could have a real, unhurried conversation without a waiter hovering over them asking if they're still working on that. But the loss cuts so much deeper. The buffets were a quiet, constant reminder of what Vegas was supposed to stand for. It was about simple pleasures, about generosity, about genuine hospitality. The Vegas of today just feels different. It feels colder, more transactional, relentlessly corporate. And nothing symbolizes that change more perfectly than the empty halls where the buffets used to be. You can literally feel it as you walk the strip now. Every single decision feels optimized to get the maximum amount of cash out of you. Every corner has been monetized. Every experience feels engineered. So what did they replace the buffets with? These trendy food halls with their neon signs and their curated artisanal vendors serving $22 sandwiches. You've got $16 tacos, $25 chicken bowls, $12 donuts, and $9 bottles of water. And that promise of togetherness? Gone. Families can't eat together because every stall has different prices. They have different wait times, completely different menus, and there's absolutely no guarantee you'll even find a place to sit. There's no ceremony anymore, there's no tradition, there's just no joy. For the locals, the loss cuts so much deeper. For decades, the buffet was their Sunday ritual. It was the one place where grandparents, parents, kids, and cousins could all come together. No reservation needed. An entire generation is now growing up without those memories, and that's the real tragedy here. Vegas didn't just lose some restaurants. It lost a piece of the very heart that made this city so special. You see, buffets never survived because the food was cheap. They thrived because of what they stood for. A promise that in Vegas, everyone was welcome at the table, not just the high rollers. But today, that promise feels like a distant, fading echo. And that brings us to part 7. The last beacons of old Vegas. Even though the buffet scene is almost unrecognizable from what it was 20 years ago, a few brave survivors are still carrying that torch. Properties that flat out refuse to let go of the values that put Vegas on the map. Now, these buffets aren't glamorous. You won't see them in flashy ad campaigns. They're not popping up on influencer TikToks with perfect ring lights and royalty-free pop music. But what they serve is something absolutely priceless. It's authenticity. Some of the off-strip casinos made a conscious decision to keep their prices fair. They know their crowd isn't made up of whales or big-spending tourists. They're serving families, locals, and the regular folks who come back year after year, just wanting a great meal that doesn't cause financial heartache. We're talking about places that stayed loyal to their people. These are the local casinos that still view food as an act of hospitality, not just another profit center. And the smaller ethnic buffets sprinkled around town that offer just incredible value. They are the rare strip buffets that are still trying to honor the legacy they were built on. These places don't chase trends. They don't try to nickel and dime you. They just understand an unspoken truth. Buffets are really about community. You can feel the difference the second you walk in. The lines are friendlier, more like a neighborhood block party. The staff actually knows the regulars by name. The whole vibe feels less like a cold, calculating revenue machine and more like a town's gathering place. There's something truly meaningful about eating next to people who remember what Vegas used to be. People who appreciate getting real value, who understand tradition, and who feel that same pang of nostalgia that you do. Every single plate at these places carries a powerful reminder. That Vegas doesn't have to be expensive to be great. That Vegas doesn't have to be exclusive to feel magical. That Vegas doesn't have to be redesigned for corporate greed just to survive. These last few buffets prove a simple, defiant truth. There's still a market for kindness. There's still a market for value. And there's absolutely still a market for the true spirit of Old Vegas. They may not be around forever, but while they are so worthy of our support. Not just for the food on the plate, but for everything that plate represents. When you choose to eat at these places, you're not just having a meal, you're taking a stand. You are casting a vote with your wallet. You're choosing a version of Vegas that truly deserves to live on. The story of the Las Vegas buffet isn't just about food. It's a perfect mirror, reflecting exactly what's happened to this city as a whole. A place that was built on a foundation of generosity slowly learned to put profit above all else. A beautiful tradition, rooted in taking care of the little guy, was systematically replaced by pricing models designed in a boardroom. An experience that was meant for absolutely everyone became an experience reserved for only a few. But this story isn't finished yet. The future of this city isn't set in stone by executives. It's shaped by every single person who visits, by the locals who call it home, and by the communities who genuinely care about what this city becomes. Every time someone chooses a classic value buffet over some trendy, overpriced food hall, every time they share a cherished memory of the Vegas they fell in love with, every time they speak up about what's been lost, they are keeping that conversation, that spirit alive. The buildings may be disappearing, but the idea behind them doesn't have to. Vegas should be a place where families can afford to eat together. A place where locals can go out and enjoy themselves without breaking the bank. A place where visitors feel genuinely welcomed, not like they're a target. Where memories are made, not monetized. So I want to ask you, what's your buffet story? Did you grow up going to them with your parents? Did you celebrate a birthday, a big win, or maybe even drown your sorrows after a loss with a trip to your favorite spread? Is there one buffet you miss more than any other, or one you still go to today because it just feels like the real Vegas? Go ahead and share your story down in the comments. Because if enough people speak up, Vegas eventually has to listen. The soul of this city isn't in its slot machines or its towering mega resorts. It's in the people who believe that Vegas should still be a place where everyone, not just the wealthy, can come and enjoy a taste of the good life. And that is a tradition worth fighting for, one plate at a time.